Welcome, everyone, to Can't Buy Me Love. I'm Rick Wilkes from ThrivingNow.com, and I'm here with Kathy Vartuli from the Intimacy Dojo and ThrivingNow.com. Welcome, Kathy. Thank you for pulling this information and this energy together. I'm really looking forward to engaging with you in our circle today.
Well, thanks for doing this with me. It's a topic that's really dear to my heart, and I don't think I was ready to ever do it before because it was buying love was such an integrated part of my life that I didn't even want to look at it. It was that fish in water where the water's always there. You can't even tell that it's there. But also I was using that to prop up my self-esteem so much. And it's only in the last year or so that I've been really able to look at this a little more clearly and see where I was doing this throughout my life. And one of the things I really want to emphasize for this call is this is not about shaming anyone or blaming anyone or saying you're wrong or broken. This is it's about helping you identify where you might have this tendency and where you can maybe modify your behavior a little so that you're feeling more self-esteem. We're going to talk about how this is kind of like a feedback cycle. It gets you, like when you're trying to earn love, it teaches other people to treat you a little less well, and then you have to work harder to earn love, and your self-esteem is really eroded by this process when the real intent is to get our needs met and feel lovable and good enough. But it actually just erodes the banks underneath of our self-esteem and makes it worse. So if you're here, I want to applaud your courage. I encourage you to be as gentle as possible as you go through this. And Rick and I are going to, give you examples and ideas and things to try on and figure out what works for you, what the best approach for you is. But just being aware of it is a huge first step. So congratulations. You've already started on this journey, and it's beautiful when you can just give things because you want to or negotiate for what you want. And thank you for being here. Thanks.
Yeah. So we've got some slides to help guide and focus us. We encourage you to take a moment, close down the Facebook, the cat pictures. You're here, you were drawn here to this time and place for your benefit. And we would love to engage with people that are generous and solid in what's right for them. And that takes some focus and attention. We're going to be touching on some subjects, some experiences. This is part of our culture, part of our dynamic. And so the more that we come together, perhaps take a moment, take a deep breath. And just notice gravity is working. Kind of feel into your body sensations for a moment. Yeah. Thank you.
And I'd like each of us, like Rick said, the cats will still be on Facebook when we're done. If you can, bring your attention here and now and just be here with us. And I'd like to set the intention, the container, that for all of us here right now and all the people listening in the future, that we get what we most need to hear out of this, that the universe guides us to hear the things that are most useful for our growth and our ability to make a difference in the world and live a life that's fulfilled and loving. And that's really what I want for all of us. I think when we feel like we can't get our needs met or we feel we're not enough, people, they're more judgmental. I know I am when I'm feeling scared or exhausted or not enough. I'm more likely to pick on other people or, just it depletes me and I have less to give. And I think the world is a better place for each of us when we can be a little more fulfilled and we can release some of the patterns that are holding us back. So, again, the courage that you're bringing, that brought you here, is going to carry you far, and I really do admire it. So please acknowledge yourself for that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So what is this? Buying love isn't about giving generously because it delights you. Some people can look at that because we're so used to this. It's a market economy that if you do something for someone that you're trying to get something. That isn't always the case. I love being generous. Kathy loves being generous. We attract generous people into our circle and our community. Thank you for being one of them. And when you do something and it's just really clean, you have the need to contribute to the lives of others. I think that that's a core human need. So just giving generously isn't by definition buying love. And it's also not agreeing on exchange. Like, hey, friend, would you, Kathy, pick me up at the see you in 2 weeks?
Of course, I would love to.
Oh, thank you
Um,
so much.
yeah.
And would you like me to pay for the toll and the parking?
How about we go out for ice cream after you get here and you buy ice cream for me?
Yes. See, that's not buying love. That is working out to us an exchange that feels mutually delicious, literally, in the case of ice cream.
Yeah, it's. I think it's about being clear and clean about our intentions, and our subconscious is very good at hiding these things from us if we feel like it's the only way we can survive. So, I for a long time thought I was being really generous with some friends, but as I started getting, the more I heal, like it's a continuous journey. I was strong enough to be able to look at it and go, "Wow, there's some." I love Rick uses the analogy of pouring honey on a relationship. We'll talk a little more about that, but it gets really sticky. There was some stickiness in our relationship because I was expecting certain things back from certain actions I was taking. And humans do. We fall into patterns, and expectations are not necessarily a bad thing when they work. But when we have expectations that are unspoken, and expectations by definitions are generally unspoken, agreements are spoken. But if I've gone into the grocery store 1,000 times and every time they have avocados or they have, fruit or vegetables, I have an expectation the grocery store is going to provide me with those things. There's a certain trend that we have, and that makes life easy for us.
Yeah.
It's when we start getting into the places where our life experiences are different. Rick and I were grown up in different families, and each of you, what was normal and expected in my family might be very different from his. Or when I expect that if I do something for you, you'll automatically assume or give me this back. When there's a kind of hook to it, that's what we're talking about versus oh, this is easy. I do expect that if Rick and I schedule time to talk, we're going to be honest or we usually talk, but we might back out. Like we have if something comes up, we have a flow and there's nothing wrong with the flow. We're talking about when there's little hooks and things that are trying to pull at someone. And we'll talk more about this, but it's a subtle distinction, but when we start clearing it out, honey is wonderful in my tea or on toast. It's not good when it's poured over a relationship. It feels sticky and icky, and it just doesn't leave a very solid feeling, comfortable feeling relationship over time.
Yeah.
And I think it really comes when we're afraid we won't get our needs met, and that what we're offering in terms of love and attention isn't enough or good enough. So we're giving to get, like, oh, you're going to spend time with me. My attention in exchange for your attention isn't enough, so I have to buy lunch in order to earn you spending time with me. Not because we agreed to that. I do have people that in my life, and I'll do this for people like, hey, I'm really busy. You're not one of my really close friends, but I'll make time for you if you do this thing for me. That's an agreed upon exchange versus I'm going to try to hook you and try to guilt or obligate or buy something from you without actually saying it out loud.
Okay, so let's take a moment and feel into what we just touched on, because we want to start with an awareness. Like it's not being generous. We can be really generous. It's not about the exchanges, which are really clear and mutually clean. It starts getting sticky icky when, like, oh, I invite this person out to lunch and I offer to pay because I really don't think that they would do it otherwise because I'm not really good enough. And there's that energetic feeling. And as energetically sensitive people, and I'll say, if you're here, chances are you're energetically sensitive.
Yeah, you don't attract people that aren't usually.
We pick up on stuff that's unspoken, and it gives us okay, I'll go to lunch with you. Whereas the difference between that and, hey, I just had this promotion at work. I'd like to celebrate with someone who has a mind that I would like to pick. If you let me pick your mind about some next things that I have ideas about, and I buy you lunch, is that a yes for you? Oh, wow. Can you feel the difference?
Very
It's
a lot cleaner and easy and so.
energetically, yeah, very different. So,
Can you do some tapping maybe?
yeah. Would you
So,
like to lead it? I feel
yeah.
like you're tuned into what you want to.
Yeah, so my thought is if each of us tune into, and we can be on either side of this, being aware of how it feels on both sides is part of the healing process. So just tune into a time when either you were trying to buy love or you felt someone was trying to, it felt a little sticky. It felt like if you said yes, there were hidden subclauses that you hadn't read, just like when you get a new phone and they have like 15 pages of really small font. And you're not just
And you
saying,
have to click accept, even though you haven't read it.
right, yeah. Because you don't just have to give up because it's legally you can't read it and it's too small and you don't have your glasses. But like that's that kind of feeling. Like instead of like I'm going to give you $500 and you give me a phone, but there's all this subcontext. So just tune into a time whether you either felt that you were experiencing that from someone else or a time that you felt that you had to do that in order to get your needs met. And take a nice slow deep breath. Feel your feet on the floor. And if you want to run away to cats, realize that it's just a natural way to try to avoid something that feels uncomfortable. And part of being an adult that's effective in the world is learning how to feel this discomfort and work through it and tap through it. When we run away, we don't actually grow. So if you can stay with it just a little bit, breathe again, deep breath in. Karate chop, even though this feels really sticky.
Even though this feels really sticky.
And not as clean as I would like.
And not as clean as I would like.
I'm not really sure what to do about it.
I'm not really sure what to do about it.
Do I move ahead?
Do I move ahead?
Do I run away?
Do I run away?
People are messy.
Yeah. People are messy.
And I'd really like a better way of dealing with this.
And I would really like a better way of dealing with this.
Top of the head, this is really messy.
This is really messy.
Eyebrow, it feels sticky.
It feels sticky.
Side of the eye, but I'm not sure what to do.
But I am not sure what to do.
Under the eye, what if I don't get my needs met?
What if I don't get my needs met?
Under the nose, do I have to just run away?
Do I have to just run away?
Chin, I feel really scared.
I feel really scared.
Collarbone, and uncomfortable.
And uncomfortable.
Under the arm, and I'm being with this feeling just this moment.
And I'm being with this feeling just this moment.
Top of the head, and I ask the universe to bring me clarity.
And I ask the universe to bring me clarity.
Nice deep breath.
And if that tapping thing looked weird for you and you don't know why we just brought it out of nowhere, thrivingnow.com/tapping can give you a history and the background and diagrams and extra help. It's a free resource for all of our community. thrivingnow.com/tapping.
I think the biggest steps, the first steps we always have to take are to acknowledge there's a problem and just be with the discomfort for a few minutes. Because if we don't do that, it's really hard to find the clarity we want to. So thank you for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So Rick, what do we buy love with? What are the things? What do we do to get this love that we think we don't deserve?
We offer energy, and money is energy, and gifts are energy, and time is energy, and energy is energy, like that attention, that awareness that, yes, I will sit here and I will listen for hours about your situation. Acts of service, like picking someone up at the airport or calling them and asking them if they want you to grab some things from the grocery store while you're there or as a special trip. Offering ideas can be compliments. I had a friend of mine, a man, and he was a good friend of mine. And when he started working for the same company that I was in, I noticed that with people with more power and position and authority, he would compliment them. Mm. These were real compliments, but guess what? They had this energy of buying approval, love, approval with them. And my boss subconsciously freaked out really like started looking down on him, and he wasn't aware of exactly what was. There was a certain quality of ass kisser kind of energy that between the two men, that they just jumped to that. And I think in compassion, it's like, look, my friend was not feeling as secure. He was in a trial period. He really wanted to work at the same company I was. There was a lot of like insecurity that was real and also touching on things that were insecure. So compliments became a part of that. Offers for help and even, you know, a space to live and sleep. Like if I give you a place to sleep, then you'll give me love, and love in all of its different forms, or any of its different forms.
Yeah, it's like, it can be things that most people wouldn't think of as an exchange. I often think back, my first girlfriend and I was very deeply in love with her, and she was in love with me, but not as deep. Like, she didn't seem as invested. And I remember one night she was having a hard time and she wanted to talk. And it was like 2 a.m. I had class the next day, and I was literally painful. And I was like head bobbing, talking on the phone. And I felt like I had to be there because she wanted me to be there, or she would leave. And I look back now and I'm pretty certain that if I had set a clear boundary, like, I love you, I want to be here for you, I can stay another 10 minutes, but then I need to get some sleep and I'll be there, we can talk again tomorrow. I think she would have had more respect for me. And I would have been taking better care of myself. So I would have had more respect for myself. And that would have made the relationship more balanced, rather than me trying. The more I tried to earn her love, and I would buy things for her, and I just went out of my way because I felt like she was the more valuable person in the relationship. And we talked about it, like, we're friends now, and that's not really how she saw it. But because I kept going out of my way to try to create this balance from my perspective, I actually created an imbalance in the relationship. And I actually taught her to value me less, that I was always going to be there, that I wasn't going to take care of myself if she needed something, and that I didn't value myself. And when we don't value ourselves, and it's a challenge, like, this is something we have to, it might be a lifelong journey, at least for me. It's been baby steps forward the entire time. But the more we value ourselves and take care of ourselves, we teach other people to treat us with value and respect. And so this is a very insidious circle. It's like, the more we undermine ourselves by taking care of other people instead of us, and we train people in this cycle, there's just it can get really painful, and it can actually undermine and create the opposite of what we want to do. So I think really, looking at this is powerful.
I want, as a practical person, both of us are very practical people, I want to speak to what hasn't perhaps been said, which is, I do all of those things.
Yeah.
And just kind of remember, by their nature, a compliment isn't necessarily buying love. And if there are 1 or 2 or 3 of those that are big for you, where they're like, when I'm feeling insecure in a relationship, I'll go do this. The first step is an awareness, like, this is a tool that I sometimes use. This is my currency that I sometimes use in that situation.
Yeah.
This is my go-to. Yeah. And like, one of the things that I did is in front of acts of service, I said, if I'm going to go do something, where am I coming from? Mm-hmm. If I'm coming from insecurity, then it's my time to really ground into, who am I? What value am I wanting to offer? Is this a yes? So just wanted to speak to that, so we don't go into the mode of, I've got to stop doing all of these things because I've been buying love.
I mean, relationships are messy, and I don't think we're ever going to be perfectly clean about this. But for me, when I see myself doing it, it's a sign that, I've learned to turn it around. If I see myself giving compliments to try to get something, to get approval or to get acceptance or connection, like, wow, okay, my self-esteem is a little low here. Is this because I'm learning something new and I just need to give myself time to do something new in a new situation? Or Am I not getting enough sleep? I notice my self-esteem is lower when I'm not getting enough sleep. Or what other self-care do I need to do to bring my self-esteem up? And again, this is not about being perfect or any of that, but we want to try to point out some of the things we do.
So
all the things we talked about, we can exchange, can be exchanged with love and integrity. They could be a direct exchange for money or for time or whatever, or they can just be a gift. In the core, at its core, buying love is about a sense of shame about not being enough as a human being or as a person to connect with. And it's an attempt to cause someone to love us, or a manipulation to allow us to be important to another person in a secret or hidden way. And it's that secret or hidden way that's really the toxic part of it, where we're kind of pulling at people, those little hidden clauses in the agreement or little hooks that we're trying to pull at them with. That's where people feel uncomfortable. And I've realized the more I am aware of my tendency to do this and the more I can stop it, the more relaxed people feel around me. Like people sense there's some hidden agenda. They don't know what it is, maybe, but they're like, and they don't feel as comfortable. And the cleaner my interaction can be with people, like, hey, I would like to do this for this, or I would like to give you this just because I'd love to see you enjoy that. And if I'm really clean about it, people, they can sense it subconsciously and they feel more comfortable. And I think it's important to realize that it's often people that were traumatized or wounded or shamed, either as children or adults. This is a very common way to turn. It's the fawning. Like there's fight, flight, freeze, and there's Peter, I'm trying to remember his last name. He talks about fawning, where we're trying to appease. We're trying to get someone to like us. So this is very, very linked to that, I think.
And I was one of those people that was traumatized and wounded and shamed in childhood. And so as I look at my timeline and my development, and I feel into like what would be helpful for those of you that are a little further along, where, yeah, you may still have some of this energy, or you're exposed particularly to people that do have that. I think about what would have been helpful to me. Like if I went and did this big act of service for someone, and they were aware that, maybe I'm a little anxious about our relationship.
Yeah.
I could ask them a question like, what felt good about doing that for me? And if they said something like, because I like you, and or just needed to be done or something, just get people into their emotional state, open up to the possibility that the anxiety that we feel. If I get a compliment from someone that feels like what they're trying to do is get me to like them, there's an opportunity here. So I'm just putting that out there at this point, that there's an opportunity as we build this awareness around it within ourselves and others, that there's an opportunity to kind of pierce the veil of secrecy, which changes everything. And not in a like, oh, you're just trying to get something from me. It's acknowledging that it's a wounding and it's a sense of insecurity or anxiousness that gets us to do this. It's not coming from anything other than our desire to be connected and safe and liked and loved. I mean, that's where all of this comes from.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
if we view and feel into each other, acknowledge it, like, hey, I'm feeling like maybe that you're feeling some pressure to do this. Let me check in. How much of this is really a yes for you to do this, and what makes it a yes for you? Mm-hmm. And as people get grounded in why, it's like, because I really like showing up for my friends when they need a ride. It just feels really good to me.
Yeah, a lot of reasons people do it. It just, we don't always see, if we're not seeing our own worth, it's harder to see it.
It is. And that's where we can, as people that are in this journey, we can reflect back their qualities, their enoughness.
Yeah. It's Pete Walker that talks about fight, flight, freeze, fawn, if you're interested.
Pete Walker. Okay.
Yeah. So we've talked about this a little bit, but there's patterns to this that can help you recognize it a little better. Usually they're unspoken things. Occasionally they'll be spoken with some hidden things, but like hidden hooks on it, but usually they're unspoken. And there's like, I'm trying to either guilt you into loving me or obligate the person, or I want them to stay with me. It's not clean cut. There's usually like lots of subcontext, and some nuances and subclauses, as we were talking about. One of the things that I grew up, like, this was really stressful for me. I found humans stressful because I felt like I wasn't enough. I had to buy their love, and I didn't actually know what they wanted. So I was guessing what they wanted, and then it was hard to know when it was fair. Like, what I gave was enough. Like, how awful am I? How much money, how much currency do I have to give you to spend time with me? How much, like, if you're being kind to me, like, how much do I owe you? Am I getting a fair exchange? Are you honoring our unspoken agreement that I made in my own head?
You could say that again. The unspoken agreement that I made in my own head.
It made it really tiring to be around humans. Like, humans exhausted me. So now I try to ask people, would you like this? Or I would like, and this is something that I practice. Like, people at work are they're like, how do you talk about these things? And I'm like,
I bet you surprised them.
It was practice. It was just like lifting. I talk all the time about lifting that 2-pound weight. And it feels awful the first few times you do it. It's just like, the pipes are rusty and dusty and clogged with stuff. And it's like, I don't think I can do this, but I'm going to practice with my cat. And then I'm going to practice with a good friend. And it starts getting easier. And you find out that you actually can have these kinds of conversations that give people a lot more power and understanding of what's going on and what you need. So anything you want to add to that?
That's great. Okay, so a core belief is something that is deep enough in us that our behaviors are driven by our core beliefs. So one of the ways that we do with energy work, we check is by having you say something out loud and feeling for how true it is, not in your head like, I have to earn or buy love and attention. Part of me is like, oh, don't be silly.
Of course I don't. Yeah, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about? So if you allow yourself to touch your core, your heart, your gut, your lower abdomen, wherever you're feeling drawn, and just check in with your core, your being, I have to earn or buy love and attention. I have to earn or buy love and attention. And on a 0 to 10 scale, well, 10 is absolutely true. It just you feel it at your core at a 10, and maybe a 6 is like, well, yeah, that's sometimes true. Just feel for where it is for you. And then take a deep breath and rub your hands together. And this, if it brings out, if you want to skip this one, feel free. Tuning into your core, take a breath and say, I am not enough.
I am not enough.
And feel how true that feels. How intense does that hit you? And then I'd also like to do, I am enough. I am enough. And 0 to 10, how true does that feel? And I've had clients where the answer to those two questions are both a 9. Mm-hmm. And when we have that kind of energetic conflict at our core, it just vibrates there. I am enough. I'm not enough. I am enough. I am not enough. It does its thing at our core. And this kind of awareness of where you are feeling on the enoughness scale, which can flow with the phase of the moon and what's going on in your life.
Well, situations like at work, I usually feel like I'm usually a 9. Like there's days when I'm a 7, but I'm in there. Some days right at 3. But most of the days I feel really pretty competent. You put me in a social situation with people I don't know that know stuff that I know each other. I'm like a -5, like in terms of being enough. Like I'm like, oh my God, I need to buy everybody's car and go hide under the couch.
Yeah. We're revealing these vulnerabilities here together. If you want to share your number, feel free, but just know that we're human and we care. We care about that connection. We care about the love. And the shame about not being enough and then trying to hide it because there's a good and sensible reason for hiding our deficiencies and vulnerabilities from in a dominator culture. People look for your vulnerabilities. In a supportive circle, they look for ways to strengthen and support. It's a very different thing, but a lot of the times when we're walking around in the world, we're hiding our vulnerabilities that's a thing, right?
Yeah, well, I know I walked around for so long feeling like a burden, like just for even existing. I was a burden to people. And I had so much shame and I wanted to hide it because I was so ashamed of it. And I was afraid if I acknowledged it or even admitted that I had any struggles around this, that people would like either totally like laugh at me or push me away or just totally I'd be alone. The problem was there's no way to heal anything until I admitted it. And I think I came off as very awkward. Like I'm sometimes awkward anyway, but when I was trying to hide the fact I was a burden and all my shame, it was like I was juggling a chainsaw and a lit torch and some knives. Like, of course I was awkward with people because I was trying to guess what they wanted and if I got enough back and try to hide all this stuff. And I just think that diminishes our interaction and our fulfillment in life so much when we're stuck in that space.
Would you lead a tapping on the I'm not enough? I'm feeling that alive for all of us.
Yeah. And realize just by tapping on this, it doesn't mean we're augmenting or making it more intense. It may feel a little more intense because we're tuning into it, but just acknowledging something can often help start releasing it, just being with it. So if you can, we're holding space for you. We're here for you. Just let yourself feel some feelings for a few minutes. If they start getting too intense, please, of course, take care of yourself. We also have grounding exercises at thrivingnow.com/grounding. So if you start getting like kind of triggered or whatever, you can go there and look at those. They include simple things like that use your cognitive brain, like, oh, where did I buy this shirt? How much did I spend for it or whatever, just to kind of help ground you. But for now, let's see if you take care of yourself, but step into this a little bit and feel it. So take a nice, slow, deep breath. Karate chop, even though I don't feel like I'm enough.
Even though I don't feel like I'm enough.
Of course, I've got to buy love.
Of course, I have to buy love.
I have to buy approval.
I have to buy approval.
I have to buy attention of any kind.
I have to buy attention of any kind.
I'm a burden.
I'm a burden.
And I'm really ashamed.
And I'm really ashamed.
And I'm taking a deep breath and being with these feelings for a moment.
I'm taking a deep breath and being with these feelings for a moment.
There are signs that there's some part of me that's wounded.
There are signs that there are some parts of me that are wounded still.
And those parts believe those things.
And those parts believe those things.
Top of the head, they believe them really strongly.
They believe them really strongly.
Eyebrow, and I can send those parts love.
And I can send those parts love.
Side of the eye, the 3-year-old that got neglected.
The 3-year-old that got neglected.
Under the eye, the 4-year-old who got ridiculed.
The 4-year-old that got ridiculed.
Under the nose, the 5-year-old who didn't have friends at school.
The 5-year-old who didn't have friends at school.
Chin, I send love to each part of me.
I send love to each part of me.
Collarbone, those parts believe these stories.
Those parts believe those stories.
Under the arm, and I can heal that.
And I can heal that.
Top of the head, and let myself be loved and accepted.
and let myself be loved and accepted.
Nice, slow, deep breath.
If you have a shiver or something inside, that's okay to let that out.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing for me was when I felt like I was a burden, I wasn't enough. All those things, the feelings were so strong around it that I felt it must be true. The thoughts and the feelings were so intense that to me, there was zero room for wiggle room. Those were absolutely true. And one of the reasons we talk about younger selves and parts, because trauma is actually stored in these energy bubbles. We freeze it off so that we can kind of go on with life and kind of block off and dissociate from that part of us. But they broadcast 24/7. They're stuck in our subconscious. Our primitive brain is reacting to them. And when we start acknowledging them and loving them, we can actually get some shift in that. And we can start seeing, hey, it's not all of me. It's this really loud part of me that's hurt and it's asking for attention. And when we use that as a indicator signal, it's something we should go back and heal, then we start getting a lot more room and energy to go, oh, wow, okay, that's a part of me. And then that experience that got frozen in that moment, that was true. But actually in this moment right now, there's no one ridiculing me or looking down at me as a burden. Maybe they actually like me. So just something to try on.
Thank you for that.
And if you have tears coming, tears are welcome. Tears and laughter are welcome here.
Where does this happen? Friendship, family, romance, work, sex, any place where you're breathing? Any place where you're...
Humans are interacting? I do it with my cat on a bad day too. Honey, come here, I'll pet you if you love me. And she's like, leave me alone.
Oh my gosh, you just nailed me. I remember buying my dog a Frisbee because I was like, I want her to love me. Here's a bone. Look at the big bone I bought you. Oh no. Yeah, so we need to add, friendships of the furry kind there too. Yeah.
I've turned up. There were times I was feeling really bad and I turned the AC up so it was cold so the cats would snuggle with me. I'm not sure that was really, they did it, but because they were cold, but it would have been a lot cleaner if I just said, kitty, come here if you want to. and reached out for help some other way. So, and I love that what you brought about this. I would love you to share this one if you can, because you brought so much to this topic, this area of it. The tension that it creates when we buy love.
Yeah. For me, a secure connection is important, and a part of me wants to adapt to that. So trying to assure connection with someone is a form of tension. And as soon as you give what you don't necessarily want to give, that's where the healthy part of the interaction of connection goes into a dynamic where I sometimes call it you make this amazing soup, and soup is great if you like soup, and I make a really good soup, and it doesn't take much poop in the soup to make it poop soup.
It takes a
vanishingly small amount. And in our inner world, we're giving, and then we're like, oh, I really don't want to give that, but I have to. And sometimes what happens when you're a giver is that people start figuring out how to activate you. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that can happen is that there can be a physical or emotional pressure. As soon as I say, hey, I'd love to, but I can't, they start pulling away. Well, if the connection is important to me, I feel that tension of moving away. The pushing and pulling starts happening. And there's a part of me that really wants stability. And so when someone starts pulling away, I want to go with them. Because if they start pushing, I'll go. I'll go where they're pushing. And being aware of that, then it is a sticky, icky feeling. It's also a tension.
Well, I think for sensitive people too, we feel the subtle pulls. People may not be meaning to pull. They may not even. they maybe think they're pretty clean, but there might be some subconscious stuff going on. And sensitive people are going to pick up on that and go, like we may follow just because we're generous and we want to help, but then there's like, it's not as clean. The relationship isn't as strong and beautiful as it could be.
Yeah, and the subconscious thing is that we look for our needs to be met. So if I'm waking up in the morning and someone has always made me coffee and they're like, hey, don't have time to make coffee this morning, I would go, oh, why? That's my oh, and then they go, and if they go and make the coffee and they end up arriving at their event late, then they're really buying the security, buying love at that point.
Sacrificing something they didn't really want to sacrifice.
Yes. And I don't really want them to go to that place.
Yeah.
And yet subconsciously my own yearning may enter that dynamic. It happens on both sides.
Yeah,
it happens even in healthy relationships. There's I want to get my needs met. I want to get my needs met. And sometimes that push pull. It's just as soon as you bring awareness to it and you start having the beginnings of a dialogue around it.
Yeah. I think a lot
changes.
of this, so much of this comes down to having awareness and presence in a relationship. And like Rick and I, we've been best friends for like 11, almost 12 years now. And it's like we're there for each other because we love each other. And there's times we get to say no. And I'll notice like he'll say yes, yes, yes to things I want to do. And then he'll say, I don't want to do that. And I have to go, deep breath, just be present with this. Okay, I get to feel the feelings. And it's okay. He gets to do that. And I get to, grow a little bit more. But there is like, it's about being present in the moment rather than just kind of going with a knee-jerk reaction, I think, is a big part of this. And it takes practice to do that. It's not something that happens overnight.
Yeah. This is the leading edge of emotional world cultivation.
Yes. And I really think this is important because so many people I work with come to me because they want to have more self-confidence. They want to feel like they're more worthwhile in relationships. And I have people that come and they're like all about status in relationships. And if they're doing this, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not a real big status person, like in terms of I'm better than you. And yet there's part of my brain that is constantly monitoring that because I grew up that the person that had the highest status, my father got to dictate who was good or bad. And if you were his buddy and had high status for that day or that hour, you weren't picked on so much. So our subconscious brain, our survival brain and subconscious are always looking for status because in the tribal situation, if you were near the top, people were going to do things for you and help you out. And if you were hurt, they would help you. And if you were low down the totem pole, you might not get the help and the support you needed. So while I much prefer to just be with people that make me happy and delighted and help me grow, there is part of my brain looking at status all the time. And part of this flows into that status. When we're assigning the other person, if we're buying love, we're saying that other person has a lot more status than I do. I need to bring up the exchange. And it changes the energy flow. So if I'm just being equal with someone, there's a beautiful, energy flows pretty equally back and forth. It's also incredibly intimate and very scary for people that have not had good connections with people.
Exactly.
If we can do this, where they're higher than us, there's not a direct a connection. There's a distance that's added to it. And then we're trying to buy to be up here. I think it's a defense mechanism as well as a coping mechanism for low self-esteem. It's kind of like, I'm going to put a boundary, a barrier between us. But it does create a different energy flow, a push and a pull. And people look to us to see how they should treat us. And I think about this back, I had a person I was dating who I just thought was a cat's meow. This was a different person. And that person thought I was really cool too. I had a PhD and like all this stuff. And I never let them honor my worth. I would constantly diminish it. I was constantly trying to buy things and trade things. And I taught them how to treat me. I taught them to treat me as less valuable. And what I did and gave and the time and energy I put in was less valuable. So it's this feedback loop. Because they treated me as less valuable, I felt less worthy. And then I valued what I was giving even less. And it just kind of, it's an insidious loop. And so when we can kind of say, oh, wait, my time and energy is worth things too. And I'm going to honor where I give that and who I do that with. it makes it more valuable. It makes it so that we're giving it more consciously rather than just trying desperately to prime the pump to get the love coming our way. So hope that thought helps, because it helped me to realize I was actually undermining my own value by doing this.
This is we're just going to quickly use an example here of sex. Like, if two beings are coming together and it's an exchange, they're an opportunity to get needs met and to express themselves and to share an experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one type of thing. Now, if these two people do exactly the same things, but one of them is feeling obligated, like, oh, my partner's really excited, or even in the distant background, there's like, oh, I'm the this in the relationship, and that means that I'm obligated to meet my partner's needs sexually.
I'm not as valuable. He or she
might
leave, or they might leave if I don't
exactly. Them. That makes the sex really expensive.
I think all of us. I think most humans have done this at times. It's not fun. It's a lot of work, and it doesn't feel nearly as good.
Right. So it's just, again, one of those things that most of us can tune into moments when there's a difference between the generous, like, yeah, I wasn't really feeling it, but now I can tune to it. And I like tuning to it because you're someone that I want to have this experience with. And, oh, now I'm actually really strongly a yes, versus that being in the energy of, I do this to keep you bonded with me, keep you close to me, keep you connected to me.
Yeah, and I think I've learned, and I it's still hard sometimes, but I've learned to speak up and say, hey, I'm not in the mood. I can tell you really are. How about I hold you while you masturbate? And sometimes if I do that, I get in the mood for other things. Or like, how about we watch some porn together? Or like, what would make this really great for you and me not have to have sex with you right now? Being able to find alternatives. And that's
obligation doesn't leave room for us there's no space for alternatives. That's another signal for us, is like, if I feel like I have to, that there's no alternative, like sex means this. If that's where you go to, chances are there's a sense of obligation rather than exploration and finding mutual yes.
Yeah, and I think it's a little different. Like, there's days when I love my job, but like there's days when I feel obligated to show up because they're giving me an exchange that works for me. I agreed to it. But there's days like I would have like, oh, it would be so much fun to play in the backyard or to sleep in or whatever. But I think there's, we can look at it, is the exchange valid? Did I agree into this exchange versus I'm trying to trade sex for an acceptance without ever agreeing to the other person. I didn't say, hey, if I have sex with you, are you going to cuddle me after and tell me you love me? They may not know that. They're like, great. And then we're left feeling like we didn't get the value. And that's what really expensive sex and the energy conversion rate, it's like, I'm giving something that may feel really like not really great to my body. I'm violating my no. And I may have resentment towards this person later if they don't exchange whatever is in my head that I feel like I need to get out of it to make this sex worthwhile. And that's toxic to a relationship. And we have these little resentments building up and these uncertainties because we're not speaking to things. We're not talking about what our real needs are and what our real wants are, and letting the other person say yes or no.
And the great news is that the things that you do to clean up the buy me love energy in other areas, they will carry over into your sexual relationships. And if you've been avoiding sexual relationships because this whole dynamic of responsibility and buy and all of that is like, whoa, no. When you strengthen up the other aspects of your life around this, then sex, which is a big deal energetically, becomes something that is easier to, possible in some cases, to navigate. We have about 10 minutes. Shall we see what's next?
Yes. I love having patterns to look for, to be able to tell if I'm falling into it. And these are some patterns that we recognized. You may see others out there, and that's fine. So you were talking, Rick, when we were talking about this, is like the pattern. You already mentioned if there's a pattern of someone always being generous, and like, okay, you always pick me up at the airport. You're not this time. Oh, well, I'm either gonna be sad or angry or withdrawn from you, and that may make it hard for for you to say no. Like you're like, if I say no, I'm gonna be stuck. I'm gonna be punished somehow. I'm either gonna see this sad or angry or withdrawn person to deal with.
Right.
And it does make it easier. It's easy to suck people into these expectations. And trading your yes for acceptance or trading your sadness for a yes it's a way of manipulating without being, we're allowed to have our feelings. We're certainly allowed to be sad. Oh, you can't pick me up. There's a difference between having your own feelings yourself and dripping them all over someone else.
Yeah, and I think that for me, I noticed that there, like reactions are things that we feel like we have to do in response to something. So if someone, if I've been giving to them and it's really pleasurable to me, and then they move away, there's a part of me that wants to up the ante. Like, oh, well, okay, what do I have to do in order to have this experience? Because contributing to others is a human need recognized in nonviolent communication, compassionate communication. The contributing to others it's a pleasure, it's a need. And so that's another one of the susceptibilities that can kind of get us out of whack. And as soon as the relationship is out of whack, it can become settled there or sticky and stuck there. Like, oh, I'm now doing all the dishes. I used to do 70% of the dishes. Now I'm doing all the dishes. I used to do something that felt good to me. And now I'm like, oh no,
And then if you're trying to get that dopamine response, that reward, not only are you necessarily doing all the dishes, but you're constantly aware of when there's dishes in the sink, so you can run over and do them. And then you're looking in the living room and other places for dishes so you can do the dishes in the hopes of getting that dopamine reward that you once got for someone appreciating your effort.
I would never do that. I would never do that. Well,
yeah, and I think there's a trap there for a generous person.
I'm not doing it right now.
Not this moment.
Let's go to the next.
It's very human, very human. Yeah, I think it all comes down to, are we sacrificing what we wouldn't choose to? Like, if my tanks are really full, my self-esteem is feeling really good, would I make this choice? Would I go ahead and like, oh, I'm going to be late if I take you to the airport versus you taking the lift, but I want to feel good because I made this act of service for you. But if I was feeling good about myself, I'd say, hey, I need to get to work. I'm even willing to pay for your lift, but I'm going to go to work. And, as much as I want to be the person, that hero that takes you to the airport, I'm going to give you a big hug and kiss, and I'm going to be with my feelings of worry and do a little tapping and as I go off to work and I'm on time for my meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And connecting in ways we wouldn't choose. I think that comes back to it over and over. Is like, if we felt good, or one way I do it is if I felt good about myself, if I thought I was enough, would I do this thing?
That's a great one. If I felt like I was enough, I felt good. If I felt good about myself, would I do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a really good way. And then another way is, if that person just said thank you and walked away, would I still, that's one way I can tell. If they would walk away and I would feel resentful or angry, then that's a sign that I'm actually hoping to get something else out of that.
Yeah. So being with the discomfort and fear, we've exercised that. You may have felt uncomfortable a lot of this time together. It certainly raised some things for me, reminders and flashes and memories. There's a real value to our brain and the neuroplasticity that we have, that when we're with something for a while, the sensations, and yet we're in a safe place, a supportive place toward ourselves and with others, that there's a relief. Yeah. You can tap on being alone. And you want to talk about sharing, Kathy?
Yeah, one of the things I've learned is if I have this inclination to buy love or trade for love, if I just share it with the person, especially if I have enough trust with them. I wouldn't necessarily do it to this random stranger, though I probably wouldn't want to be, I might be complimenting them, but generally I don't go out of my way to earn attention from people like that. But I might say to Rick, like, hey, I'm feeling like I should do this thing. Like, should take you to the airport, or you won't love me as much, or we won't be as close as we were before, or you won't pick me up when I come. So just stating what the thing is, stating it out loud, as terrifying as it is, even stating it to yourself in the mirror or to your pet, but stating to the person is really powerful if they're a loving person, because Rick is most likely to go, oh, wow, do you want to tap on that? Or, I'm going to love you just as much if you take me to the airport or not. Or he might say, it's really important that you take me to the airport. Let's figure out a way to do it. Like, it starts dialoguing.
I need to honor that. If somebody says that to me, I'm feeling like I should do this or you'll leave me. My initial reaction may be a bit of offense that they don't know me well enough. And so I want to acknowledge that this kind of dialogue is new. Humans aren't used to it.
Yeah.
There's a whole field of compassionate communication. You could say something like, I'm noticing this weird thing, especially with you, because I know you're not like this.
Yeah.
That, gosh, if I don't actually be the one to take you to the airport, that you're not going to like me as much. And I just want to acknowledge that that's a feeling that's alive in me.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you want to have some context. You don't just want to blurt. Ideally, you don't want to just blurt it out, but voicing it takes some of the power out of it.
Mm-hmm. Practice making it clear. People that, let's say, they do massage exchanges, but they don't make it clear. Like, I'm gonna rub you on Tuesday, and I would like a massage in the next week. Can we make sure that that's scheduled?
Yeah. Or I just like to give you a massage for an hour just because I love you.
Yes. And that for me, that's a complete experience. Are you okay with that being the complete experience?
Yeah.
Let the other person be and give what is a yes for them, and keep tuning into your authentic yes. That is a lifetime practice. Like, emotional freedom is a skill. We develop it, we cultivate it. We use things like tapping, which is a tool, and our own awareness, which are tools for developing this emotional freedom. Kathy, would you take us through this?
I work with a lot of people around sexuality and dating, and I always ask them, what was a yes for you? And they don't know. So many, and Rick and I have both seen this with so many people, like that they either have trauma and they're shut down, or they're so used to pleasing other people or doing what other people want, they don't even know what their own yes is. So we're starting a program called Knowing, Asking, and Negotiating, and we're having a series of calls starting the 25th, where we'll help you discover your yes and what you want in different situations. We're going to teach you how to articulate your yes and your no, and ask for what you want, and then negotiating with people with integrity that's not manipulative or guilt-inducing or obligating, so that you can have really clean. You can take the honey and the tar and everything else out of your relationships, so people can feel comfortable with themselves, each other. And normally this isn't going to be a $97 program, but because you'll be helping us as we go through, build it out and answer questions, ask good questions, we're going to offer $47 for those people who are here now. And you can find out a little bit more right now at theintimacydojo.com/knowing. And I'll be filling out some more information. We haven't quite finished that page. So, but we'll have the dates and everything coming up pretty soon on there. But we'd love to have you be part of that if that's something that you're excited about. Because for me, not knowing what I wanted was a huge limiter in how to interact with humans and even get a fulfilling life. I was so stuck. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
And this call is going to become a part of our belonging series, the body confidence, a new relationship with your body, and a new engagement with life at theintimacydojo.com/belonging. We've addressed in that releasing blocks, fears, resistances that keep us from that feeling of belonging. We've talked about this energy between people and the energy inside of ourselves. being in this dance. And this course that we have at theintimacydojo.com/belonging is there to address that. Is there more that you want to say about that, Kathy?
No, we had a lot of fun doing that series, and if you were part of it, thank you. And if you weren't, you can still jump in and get it. I thought we had a lot of really fun insights and really good interactions with people.
Oh, it's made a difference in my awareness and my comfort at just being where I am. And that's part of belonging. Last night, just being able to be where I was instead of like trying to feel like I had to force myself to belong, to feel the sense of belonging and community, just right where I was in my own little bit of anxiety, some exhaustion, some not wanting to dance, it was really different to go to that place than that tension. And I do give some of the gratitude to those people that joined with us and helped us co-create that.
Yeah, it's definitely a co-creation. And just that we know we're a minute over, but I just want to, one of the things you can do to start with this, to work through this, is start honoring yourself. If you feel like, oh, I buy love all the time, I don't know how to break out of it, start practicing with this gentle pause before you say yes to things or offer things, and ask yourself what's a yes for you. If the program, the Knowing program is a good option for you, that we can actually dig into that. But tune is this a yes, or is this something that I'm doing because I'm fearful, or I think someone's going to leave me? Are you expecting something in return that you're not articulating? Because when we keep things clean, when we say, hey, I would love this in exchange for this, or I would do this gladly if this, or I would just like to do it. The more awareness you can bring to this, and the more you practice this, again, baby steps, gentle weightlifting, pause. Is this something I really want to do, or am I afraid something bad will happen if I don't with this relationship? Those are really good ways to step forward to it. So, and just someone asked, is the body comfort, the belonging program is a separate program from the Knowing program. The belonging program we've already recorded. This is the last recording for that, but they're all there and available for you to listen to right away. And the Knowing program is when we're starting on the 25th of September. So belonging is like over, as we've already recorded it, but it's all there. It's all ready for people to dive into.
Evergreen and ready. Yeah.
So I want to thank you for being here. This is a tough subject. And I also believe that the price of confidence and beautiful connection is courage. And that means showing up for the tough conversations and working through the things that a lot of people don't want to look at. So the fact that you were here, you were looking at these things, some of you were in tears, some of you were tapping, some of you were discovering new things. That's really beautiful to me. And I want to honor your courage. And Rick, I'd love to thank you. Our discussions around this were so fun and so deep. And so thank you for helping co-create this with us, together. It was so much fun.
Thank you all so much. And we're both available at support@thrivingnow.com or support@theintimacydojo.com. So if something comes up to you, you have a question, any way that you'd like to fuel, seed, or inspire the work that we're doing together as a community, we invite you to engage with us that way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye,
all right. Bye, everyone. Ciao.
Bye.
Thanks.